always talking about healthy homes, managing air, humidity, focusing on the enclosure, but with a healthy home, are you still bathing and drinking chlorinated and VOC-filled water? That's why we are talking all about water filtration in today's episode. But first, I'm Christine. I'm a licensed general contractor here in Southern California and holistic construction consultant, helping families build healthy homes all over the US. And today I want to talk about water filtration. Big topic, and one that I just got asked last week from a client that we had spent months and months of planning with, and they came back around wanting to readdress the water filtration topic because there's just so much information out there. There are endless units to consider and which one is right for your home. So this particular client, we had selected a unit. There was an evaluation on their particular water, but they wanted to revisit it because they had a question about PFOAs. These are considered forever chemicals. So they just wanted to make sure that along with pharmaceuticals were able to be removed from their water. So I'll share with you at the end what we ended up landing on after evaluating the water again and all of their concerns. But first, before we get to actual equipment and what each of the filters do, we got to talk about big picture of water filtration and what the goals really are, because there is no one unit that's right for every home. So the first topic to address is, before we even get to water filtration, it's plumbing. This is another big topic. Is it PEX or is it going to be copper? That's a big conversation happening right now of every new construction home is going to be standardized with PEX plumbing. That is what's coming into your home, and that's just what's most inexpensive to install, but that's also what a lot of plumbers have familiarity with. Copper is not nearly as commonly used today because of cost and because of time. So there's already a lot of expenses in building a home. And so usually most are getting PEX unless asked for otherwise. But on the topic of water quality, does it really make a difference if you go with PEX or copper? I think there is a difference. And the reason is because PEX plumbing does seem to have issues with possible biofilm accumulation, and some even recommending that PEX gets flushed annually, which I think is seemingly really challenging to do and can require chemicals in flushing all of your PEX lines. On the other hand is copper. Copper's the longevity material. It's not going to have this plastic leaching that some PEX does. But copper is not suitable for all water types. There are certain areas or regions where the municipality is adding additional, I don't want to say contaminants, but they're adding additional minerals and other additives that have been known to cause pinhole leaks in copper. So that can be an issue as well. Also, copper is not typically suitable for an RO, a reverse osmosis water filtration system, because RO water is extracting all of the minerals within the water. So it's going to want to pull and leach from the copper. So on the topic of PEX versus copper, I find that both can be suitable. It also depends on how the plumbing is going to be run and the square footage of the home. And if it's in a climate zone where freezing is a potential risk, there's many other factors on making the final decision. But I have PEX in my home. I like PEX. It's all about how it's run and the water filtration system prior to it. So I don't find that the biofilm accumulation or the leaching is a significant problem when you're selecting the right PEX. There are PEX manufacturers that are sourcing all of their materials. There's US made PEX. There's also a Germany PEX brand. So there are resources out there, and you can also reach out to these manufacturers and ask, have they tested for forever chemicals or plastic leaching? I think it's worth the conversation. But we're digressing into the plumbing topic, but on the water filtration side, just remember that the water filtration is going to be taking place right after the main line. So it's going to be filtering all of your well water or all of your municipal water. And then it's going to feed into either your PEX or your copper. So on the water filtration side, most standard units are going to be a carbon filtration. That's what you see as these big, tall, 4-foot units, those are all filled with a different type of media, which is what it's referred to as. And this is the media that cleans, absorbs, it conditions the water, and those are what most of the baseline models are going to do. And then that water gets fed into your hot water tank or your tankless unit and then fed into the rest of your home. If you are in a larger home, and this is something that we did for a home that is currently under construction, it's about 20,000 square feet, a lot of bathrooms. We've got big water filtration systems in the garage. And something that we considered was, how often are these bathrooms being used? And do we actually want to be sending filtered water to all of these toilets? And the answer was no. If we can avoid it, having chlorine in your toilets is one of the few areas that you do actually want that, especially if these toilets are not going to be flushed and used regularly. If you have like ultra pure or RO water in a toilet that's got some bacteria in it, that's not going to keep the bacteria at bay. So think about the size of your home. If this is a vacation home, if it's not used very often, does it make sense to bypass your water filtration system to feed your toilets with unfiltered water? So that's something that can be done through talking in advance with your plumber and your contractor, but that may be an area, especially if you are flushing the toilets quite often. Do you want to be spending the money filtering the water that's going to be in your toilet? So that's one area to consider. Toilets, how you want to treat them. Secondarily is this media filter. Do you want to upgrade from the media filter? Well water needs to be treated separately than municipal water, which is city water. Well water is going to need to be independently tested so that you know the chemicals and contaminants that are being removed within your specific well water. When it comes to municipal water, those carbon media filters are the standard way of filtering water. So here's how you can beef that up or make it more robust, is adding a pre-sediment filter. So consider this like a pre-filter before it gets to the big filter. What this pre-filter does is it helps extend the life of this big media filter. And the pre-filter, which is much smaller, usually gets changed out every year, maybe even more frequently depending on use. But having a pre-filter extends that life. And it also does some additional filtration before it hits the big filter. Then from there, you can add on some bells and whistles. Bells and whistles would be things like a UV light, so UV sanitation light. There's also whole home restructuring devices. You might have heard about restructuring your water that you drink. They also have restructuring of the water that's being fed into your home. I don't know all the science behind living water and dead water, but the concept is that water running through a stream naturally is living water because it's going through this vortex and natural flow down the stream. Water that we have today coming to our homes is going through city pipes and straight runs, and it's not going through this same process of water running down a stream. So the whole home restructuring device helps simulate that living water effect. So it's got a lot of undulations within it so that it's bouncing the water around to essentially restructure it to be living water. And then that gets fed into your home. In addition to having water filtration that's feeding your sinks and your showers and your bathtubs, your laundry room, maybe your toilets, maybe not your toilets, it's most often the case that the water that's feeding all of these areas isn't up to the degree of water filtration that you want to be drinking on a regular basis. For 90% of people, it would be great. I mean, you're not drinking tap water. So it's definitely filtered above and beyond just tap water. But for me and for many of our clients, we want to take drinking water to a whole nother level. And that's where a point of use water filtration should be considered. And this would be under a kitchen sink, maybe it's in a butler's pantry or in another area. This point of use water filtration would be any area where you want to walk up to the sink and with a cup, fill up your water for drinking water, or you want to take a big pot and fill it up with clean water that you would be cooking with. And so that same point of use system should be in close enough proximity to where it can also feed ice makers. Do you want to have ice that's filtered from the home water? Not terrible. Or do you want to have ice that's filtered with ultra filtered drinking water? So plan this out so that you can have sinks and ice makers or freezers in close enough proximity that they can all receive ultra filtered water with what's called a point of source water filtration system. So what is the point of source or point of use have that the whole home doesn't? Most of the time, it's going to be RO water, meaning it is stripped of everything and every contaminant in it. It is reverse osmosis water. From there, really good units are going to restructure the water and also remineralize the water, because we don't want to be drinking just dead water that has no minerals in it. So that's water that usually is most suitable for drinking. Now, it's very, very expensive to get your entire home functioning off of RO water that is completely sterilized, remineralized, and restructured. So it's not usually something or an avenue that everyone wants to consider, but it is a possibility. Also, once you think through what you want to have for water filtration, maybe it's just a whole home water filter. Maybe you also want to have the under the counter or under the sink water filter. The next thing you need to consider is space allocation. Where is all this equipment going to go? One, make sure that your cabinetry, your sink, your dimensions, everything can handle fairly large unit under your kitchen sink, because that's most often where it's going to be housed. Also, plan for where the water filtration system for the whole home is going to live. Is it going to be in a garage? Does it need to be on the exterior of the home? Where is it going to live? Because most of these units need something referred to as like a backwash. So it needs to clean this media, typically at least once a month or every couple of weeks, but it needs to clean this media and then drain away the water after it's cleaned. So where is this water filtration system going to live? And do you have access to where it can have a drain that drains the water away? So it's not something you want to put up in an attic, not something that you want to put in an inaccessible closet or space that you can't get to. Water filtration systems need maintenance. They need maintenance at least once a year, both under the sink and a whole home. So think about the drain line and also long-term maintenance of it. But the biggest thing and the starting point is it's going to be hard for you to select a water filtration system if you don't know what you are filtering out. So if you go onto the EWG website, it's the tap water database. There's a ton of information in there. If you put in your location, it will give you a glimpse into the additives that local municipal water is adding into the water. There's also contaminant levels for arsenic and formaldehyde, pharmaceuticals, on and on, of all of the different contaminants within your local municipal water. So there's a database. If you are on well water, you're going to need to have that independently tested, because all well water has different levels of contaminants. Once you have a baseline of knowing what you need to filter out, then that's when you can start your due diligence stage of the water filtration system that's best for you. There are a ton of them out there. There's systems like Ophora. There's also Flagship is another great water filtration. There's Natural Action Technologies. There's Radiant Life that I know is a good baseline unit. I'm not married to any particular unit. I'm not advertising for any unit. I think that it's a great starting point once you have the data around the contaminants within your specific water. That's where you want to start, and then reach out to various manufacturers and send them your water data and say, here's my water data. Can you help me pick a unit? And ask questions. That is the best place to start. That is their job. That is their whole company structure, is they're selling water filtration units. So they should be able to ask the questions about, is the unit removing pharmaceuticals? Is it removing chlorine and heavy metals? Whatever is on your list that you're wanting to remove, ask those questions before selecting a unit. And then also understanding the maintenance. How often do filters need to be replaced? And asking about where can this unit be stored on the exterior of my home? Does it need to be on the interior? That would be another great question to ask. And then last thing is making sure that whoever is installing it is familiar with how the unit needs to be installed. So from the manufacturer side, selecting your water filtration system, also having your water data along with that, making a decision, and then understanding where the equipment needs to be. And then lastly is the install and long-term maintenance. So there's a ton of decisions that go into selecting the water filtration system that's right for your unique project in your home, and ultimately what level of filtration you want. But there are resources out there as your starting point, so you know what you need to remove. And then from there, determining what system's right for the size of your home as well. So I hope this episode was helpful for you in navigating the land out there of endless water filtration units. And if you have more questions about this topic, send them to me on Instagram and I'll do a video, or if it warrants another long format video, happy to do that. But send me your questions over on Instagram, and of course, follow along here, subscribe so that you'll get episodes just like this in the future.